People always ask why I took the night shift, and I never really know how to answer that without sounding like I'm hiding something. Truth is, I kind of was. I wasn't running from the law or anything dramatic like that. I was just tired. Tired of people, tired of noise, tired of trying to fit in somewhere that never really wanted me. So when I saw the job posting for a night shift attendant at a gas station about 40 minutes outside of town, I didn't think twice. No interview, no questions. Just a guy on the phone saying, "You want it, it's yours. Show up by 10 p.m. It was perfect. No coworkers, barely any customers, and the hum of those fluorescent lights that almost made it feel like time didn't exist in there. I could sit behind the counter with my thermos of cheap coffee, a book I wasn't really reading, and just exist. No expectations, no responsibilities beyond keeping the register running and making sure no one walked off with snacks. The first few nights were uneventful. Honestly, they all kind of blurred together. The same couple of truckers passing through, the same guy who bought 2 scratch-offs and a bottle of orange soda every night like it was ritual. I'd nod, they'd nod, and that was about the extent of my social interaction. It was quiet, peaceful, too peaceful maybe, but that's what I wanted. Then around my 5th or 6th shift, something started to feel off. It began with the temperature. At exactly 3 in the morning, like clockwork, the air would change. I don't mean like a breeze or anything, it was this strange, still kind of cold. The kind that creeps up your spine and settles in the back of your neck. The kind that makes your bones ache, even if you're wearing a jacket. I'd check the thermostat, still the same. Check the vents, no airflow. But the cold kept coming. Same time, every night. I started wearing layers, even in early fall. It didn't help. Then the lights. They'd flicker, but not like a normal short. It was always the same ones, the row above the chip aisle. Just a quick pulse, like someone flipping the switch and changing their mind. It never lasted more than a second or two. I wrote it off at first. Old wiring, I figured. Stations like that one weren't exactly known for their maintenance schedules. Still, I made a note of it. Told myself I'd mention it to the day shift guy. Not that I ever really saw him. We switched shifts like ghosts, never overlapping. But the thing that started to get to me, the thing that made me feel like maybe something wasn't right, was the sound. It came from the back, the storage room. Now, storage rooms in places like this are always creepy. It's where they keep the old metal shelves, outdated promotions, cardboard boxes that haven't been touched in years. But this one had a door that didn't quite close all the way. It stuck just enough to stay ajar, like someone had gone in and never fully come out. And on some nights, not all, I'd hear things. Shuffling, like someone was moving boxes, not fast, just slow, deliberate sounds. A box being dragged across the concrete, plastic bags rustling. Once I thought I heard a low thud like something heavy being dropped. I even went back there a few times with my phone light on. Always empty. Always quiet the moment I stepped inside. There was a shelf in the back with old paperwork, receipts, outdated manuals, repair logs. I even checked them, no sign of anything unusual, nothing that screamed paranormal or whatever, just old junk. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't really alone there. I didn't tell anyone. Who was I going to tell? I didn't have friends I talked to regularly, and if I told the guy who owned the place that I was hearing things at 3 a.m., he'd probably just shrug and say, "Welcome to the night shift." So I kept going, night after night, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And each time the clock hit 3 a.m., I braced myself. First came the cold, then the flicker, then sometimes the sound. It was like a routine, and part of me convinced myself it was harmless. Just old pipes, faulty lights, maybe a raccoon in the storage walls. I even tried bringing headphones to drown it out, but deep down, I think I knew. Something was building, Something was waiting. And I didn't know it yet, but the gas station, the one I thought was giving me peace, was about to show me something I wouldn't ever forget. Something that would follow me long after I left. And the worst part is, I still remember the exact time it started to change. 3:13 a.m. That was the night it stopped being routine and started becoming real. I started noticing the pattern after about 2 weeks. At first it was subtle. I'd glance up at the clock, and almost without fail every night. 3:13 a.m. That specific time. Something would happen, not just the cold anymore. That had become expected. The flickering lights, too. I'd gotten used to them like you get used to a bad knee or an old floorboard that creaks in the same spot, but this was different. I began to feel like I wasn't alone. And not just in the way you feel when you're in a big empty building at night. I mean really not alone. Like someone else was there. Watching, moving, following some invisible routine right alongside mine. Then it happened. One night I was restocking cigarettes behind the counter. It must have been 3:12 a.m. I remember because I had looked at the small digital clock on the register and thought, here we go again. I even braced myself. Cold, flicker, maybe a thud in the back. Same thing, same time. But this time, it wasn't just a noise. The front door chimed. Now the chime in that station is old school. A little bell that dings when someone opens the glass door. And it only goes off when the door physically moves. I looked up, expecting some lost driver. Or maybe one of the usual weirdos coming in for a coffee or lottery ticket. But the door wasn't open. I walked around the counter to check, thinking maybe wind had pushed it or something. But the latch was still tight. The glass wasn't fogged. It hadn't moved. I turned to go back to the counter, and that's when I saw him. He was already halfway down aisle 3 to the candy aisle. A man, tall, thin. He was wearing an old brown coat like something from the 1940s. High collar, wool or canvas maybe, I couldn't tell. He had a flat cap, the kind old men used to wear, but it wasn't the clothes that got me, it was his face. Or more specifically, the complete absence of it. No eyes, no nose, just a blur, like static on an old TV. Like his face wasn't fully tuned in. He didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge me, just walked slowly. Not robotic, not ghostly, just like a man with a purpose, as if he knew exactly where he was going. He headed toward the far end of the aisle. I should have said something. Hey, you okay? Anything, but I didn't. I couldn't. My voice didn't work right then. I just stood there, frozen behind the coffee rack, staring as he moved like a shadow with weight. And then he was gone. Not out the door, not down another aisle, just gone. I ran toward the back, fast, turned the corner of the aisle. Nothing. No sound, no footsteps, no trace. Like he had melted into the shelves. The automatic sensor on the floor, the one that dings when someone walks over it, hadn't gone off. I checked the camera feed. That's when things really started to twist in my mind. There was no one on the footage, not even me. The aisle was empty, no tall man, no coat, not even a blur. I watched it again. Still nothing. The exact moment I saw him. The feed just jumps like someone had cut a few seconds out and patched it back together. I sat there behind the counter for hours after that. Didn't move, didn't blink much either. I just stared at the door, the aisles, the ceiling, waiting for him to come back. For something to explain itself. But the night went on like nothing had happened. The next night I told myself I imagined it. Lack of sleep, too much caffeine. Maybe I nodded off and dreamed it. I made up a dozen excuses until it happened again. Same time, 3:13. Same man, same coat, same aisle. And again, the footage didn't show him. But this time, I followed. I waited until he turned down the aisle, then moved quickly behind him, keeping just enough distance. I was trying not to breathe too loudly, not to scare him, or myself. I turned the corner. Empty. Gone. The aisle was short, maybe 10 feet. No door, no corner to turn, nowhere to go, just a row of candy, gum, and boxed pastries. And then I felt it. Not a sound, not a shadow, a breath, warm air, slow, deliberate, right behind my ear. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I stayed there, paralyzed, staring at the empty aisle. The breath stayed for what felt like forever. Then it stopped, and so did everything else. The cold vanished. The lights steadied. The silence settled back in like a blanket. Eventually I moved. I walked back behind the counter without looking over my shoulder. I didn't even check the cameras that time. I didn't want to know what they did or didn't show. All I knew was something was happening, something I couldn't explain. And that breath, it wasn't in my head, it was real. And it changed everything. I remember the night it happened because everything felt wrong from the moment I walked in. The door was heavier than usual. My key didn't fit right, like the lock was resisting. The air inside the station smelled different, like metal and damp concrete, like something old had been disturbed. I checked the lights. They flickered a little more than usual, buzzing above me like they were straining to stay alive. The temperature was already colder than it should have been. And it wasn't even midnight yet. I should have turned around, should have walked out and never come back. But I didn't. I told myself I was being paranoid again, that my imagination was getting louder than the job. I clocked in, made coffee I didn't really want, and settled behind the counter like I always did. But that night, 3:13 didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt like an arrival. The moment the clock changed, 3:12 to 3:13, everything went black. Not a flicker, not a slow dim, just sudden absolute darkness. The lights, the signage, the register screen, even the small battery-powered clock on the wall, all dead. No backup, no hum, no sound of machines resetting or failing. Just silence. I stood up, heart already thudding. I reached under the counter for the flashlight I kept, but it was dead too. I tapped it, shook it, opened the battery lid. Nothing. My phone wouldn't turn on either, blank screen. Powerless. That was when I noticed. The emergency lights outside weren't on either. The entire block, if not more, because it was swallowed in darkness. But the moment I looked out through the glass doors, I saw them, figures, dozens of them, standing in the parking lot, not walking, not approaching, just standing, motionless, facing the station. Their shapes were hard to make out. Silhouettes more than people, no faces, no clothing details, just outlines against a moonless black sky. And they didn't move. I stood there behind the counter, breathing slow, barely daring to blink. The kind of stillness you feel in your chest when your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. I don't know how long I stared at them. It could have been 10 seconds or 10 minutes, but eventually I backed away, slowly, toward the back hallway. The only place I could go was the storage room. I didn't want to. Every part of me screamed not to. But I had to do something, anything to feel less cornered, less watched. I made my way back, one slow step at a time, using the lighter from my jacket pocket just to guide my path. And when I got to the storage room, I hesitated. The door, the one that always stayed slightly open, was closed. Not just shut, fully latched. Something it had never done before. I stood there, lighter trembling in my hand, trying to listen. Nothing. No movement, no rustle. Just the kind of silence that seems to press against your ears. Then came the knock. 3 knocks. From the inside of the door. Not loud, not violent, just firm, slow. I froze. I didn't ask who it was, I didn't call out, I just stood there waiting for a second knock, or for something to open the door from the other side. But nothing happened. Eventually, and I still don't know why I did this, I reached out and opened it. The room was pitch black. I stepped in, lifting the lighter. The flame barely lit more than a few inches in front of me. But I could see just enough. The boxes hadn't moved. The shelves looked untouched. Except, in the far corner across from the filing cabinet, there was a mirror. Old, cracked on one side. I had never noticed it before. Maybe it had been covered with something, or maybe it hadn't been there until tonight. There was fog on the glass, not just moisture, breath, like someone had stood inches from it, watching themselves, watching me. And written across the center in a slow, deliberate scrawl was a message. 7 words. "You shouldn't have looked for me." That was it. No signature, no threat, just a reminder. A fact. And standing in that cold, dark room with my hand shaking and the lighter barely staying lit, I realized something. This wasn't about the job anymore. This wasn't about flickering lights or cold air or even faceless strangers. This was about me. About what I had done. About what I had seen. Something knew I was looking, and now it was looking back. It was supposed to be my last shift. I'd already told the manager I was quitting. Gave my notice 2 nights ago. Said it wasn't for me, the hours, the isolation, the weird things happening. I didn't go into detail. What would I say? That a man with no face walks through the store every night? That something knocked from inside a locked room? That I'd read a message written in breath on a mirror that wasn't even supposed to be there? I just said I was done. But I agreed to work one final shift, one more night. One more 8-hour crawl through the darkness, then I'd be free. Or at least I thought I would be. That night the sky looked darker than usual. The kind of dark where even the stars felt dimmed. There was no wind, no traffic, nothing moving. Just an unsettling stillness that blanketed the entire station. Inside, everything felt wrong from the start. I walked in, and for a split second I thought I saw something move behind the counter. But when I looked again, it was gone. I told myself it was just nerves. Just the weight of this being the last night playing tricks on my brain. But deep down, I knew better. By now I knew the feeling too well. That subtle shift in pressure, that static hum in the back of my skull. The sense that the air itself was watching me. I tried to distract myself, did a full sweep of the aisles, restocked shelves that didn't need restocking. Counted bills in the register just to keep my hands busy. Hours passed, but they didn't feel real. And then, it happened. 3:13 a.m. I didn't even have to check the clock. I felt it, like a shiver moving through time itself. And then everything stopped. I mean everything. The lights didn't flicker. They just died. Instantly, total blackout. Even the red glow of the exit sign vanished. The emergency lights didn't click on. My phone screen wouldn't light up. Nothing. No hum from the fridge coolers, no buzz from the ceiling fixtures, no blinking register lights. Just complete, suffocating silence. And then I noticed the clocks. The one above the door, the one on the register, even my watch. All frozen, all stuck on 3:13. I stood behind the counter, frozen too. I don't know how long I stayed there in the dark. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't exist anymore. Then through the blackness I heard a sound. Not a knock this time, not footsteps, breathing, not one source either, multiple, all around me, shallow, patient. And then they appeared, the figures. The same ones I saw in the parking lot. Only now they were inside. I don't know how they got in. The doors never opened. The glass didn't break. But they were there, filling the aisles, standing by the refrigerators, lurking in the corners, surrounding the counter where I stood like a trapped animal. And they were still. So still. No movement, no sound, except for one. One of them stepped forward, slowly, closer and closer still. I could barely make out its shape. Tall, draped in something dark. Not clothing exactly, but not flesh either. A void wrapped in shadow. It leaned across the counter, closer than anyone should, and then it whispered right into my ear. A voice I felt more than heard. "You're staying with us." That's all it said. No anger, no menace, just certainty. And the moment those words sank into my bones, the lights came back on, all at once. The humming of machines returned, the flicker of neon signs outside, the dull buzz of electricity rushing back through every wire. It was like the night snapped back into place. I gasped. I don't even remember holding my breath. I looked around. The figures were gone. The station was exactly as it had been before. Shelves in place, doors closed, not a single thing out of place. Except me. I looked down at my hands, and that's when I noticed. They were wet, soaked, with something dark, thick, and cold. It didn't feel like water. It clung to my skin, sank into the lines of my fingers. There was no wound. Not mine, anyway. No spill, no source. Just that awful ice-cold presence dripping from my palms like a final message I couldn't read. I wiped them on my pants. The stain stayed. I checked the cameras again. Nothing. No glitch. No figures. No blackout. Just me. Standing still. Frozen at 3:13. I clocked out before the clock could even tick to 3:14. I left the keys on the counter, didn't clean up, didn't turn off the lights. I walked straight out into the night and didn't look back. And even now, all these weeks later, I can still feel that whisper in my ear. "You're staying with us." Some part of me wonders if I ever really left that place. I didn't finish the shift. I waited for the sun to rise, or at least for the clock to move again. It didn't. At some point, I stopped waiting. I walked out before daylight touched the edge of the lot, left the register open, the cooler lights still humming, the door unlocked. I never went back. No call to the manager, no resignation, no explanation. What could I even say? But that the clock stopped and something whispered from the dark. That figure stood inside a place no one entered. That my hands came away wet with something I never found the source of. Number, you don't talk about things like that. You bury them. Swallow them. Pretend they never happened. But pretending only works when your mind is quiet, and mine hasn't been since that night. Even now, years later, I can't sleep through the night. Especially not around 3:13 a.m. because that's when it starts. First, it's just a feeling, like I've forgotten something important, like a thread has come loose behind me. Then the air gets colder, and the silence changes. I know it sounds crazy, but it's real, because every time I close my eyes near 3:13, I hear it, that knock, faint, measured, from behind the walls of my bedroom, or the inside of a mirror, or somewhere deeper, somewhere I can't reach, but that always finds me, and I feel it, that presence, watching, waiting, not angry, not violent, just patient, like it knows I saw something I was never meant to, and that one day I'll come back, whether I want to or not. I try not to think about it. I avoid late nights, avoid mirrors in the dark, and I keep a light on, always, even if it doesn't help. I tell myself it's over. But sometimes when the world goes quiet and everything holds its breath, I wonder if I ever really left that gas station, or if part of me, the part that looked too long, never walked out. And as for what it was, what I saw, what whispered to me, I never found out what it really was, and I don't want to.